commemorating, the fallen comrades of Black August. William Christmas, James McLean, George Jackson, Jonathan Jackson, W.L. Nolan, the names, but the people, to Katari Gaulden, who was assassinated in 1979, and after that it became a thing outside of the prisons. But to commemorate them by understanding that because of what they did and because of what how we've been resisting since forever is that to organize and to move without limitations. Many times not just in the prisons where they actually put you in a real box. You know what I mean? But out here where the quote unquote free world, as some prisoners refer as out here is the free world. We limit ourselves, right? We put our movement and our struggle for resistance, against oppression. We put it in the box and frame and say, "This is it right here." You see what I'm saying? Here you have people fighting where they can be out here to do more, right? That you have here, but they're actually in the box. But we out here limiting ourselves, critiquing each other and giving sharp criticism of each other because, you got to do it within confines of this. But Black August, a resistance has, put it to my heart, is that, there are no limitations. Whatever way you could, whatever means you can use to free yourself, that's what you better do. Or be satisfied with being a slave, and that's just the, reality of it. If you want to be a slave and you can find joy in that, that's fine. But we're saying that if you're saying that you don't believe in slavery, then who are us to put resistance in a box and say, well, it can only be here, it can only be there. It can't be in the prisons. Before George and all those were doing what they did, people wasn't even looking at the prisons. You know what I'm saying? Until, and then later on, as Keith was talking about, the Free Alabama movement, they made the prison movement a big thing because it is a part of the struggle, the global struggle. It's just not something that, that's just some jail cat fighting over some soup. No, they're fighting for their liberty and freedom as well. And they're connected with the people out here. And so, so it's a part of the overall struggle. And we got to understand that Black August always meant for me, is that we don't put resistance in the box. It can't be labeled and put on aisle 3. Resistance is resistance. However you do it, that's what you got to do. You know what I mean? And so that's what it means for me. It used to mean doing 100 push-ups, 300 crunches, and pull up on the pull-up bars when we first started in 2008. But now it's much more than that. So yeah.
I can say for myself, as far as what Black August means to me, it means dedication and commitment, right? I remember as he was talking about, one of the first people that we come in contact with studying Black August is who? George Jackson. And then you become to understand of what George Jackson meant, not just here in the United States or specifically to the Black Panther Party, but what he meant internationally, what his particular movement meant internationally, and for people within the prison, and particularly in California, how they was able to adapt and how that's still alive today through folks like ourselves, through folks like you, like this struggle is still alive. And thinking about it personally, and he mentioned years and years ago, back when probably all of us here probably had hair back then, definitely myself. Not to say that we older folks, but to say that it's some time ago. But in saying that, I just remember organizing specifically in Pleasant Grove. And if you've been to Pleasant Grove, it's on the east side of Dallas. And I remember organizing a place that we called the Dream Center, and making folks, influencing folks on this terminology. Like you're talking about socialism, right? And you hear all the time, folks don't know that they participating, but they happy to participate. They may not know the terminology, but they 100% with it. They supporting it. And so that's the things that we did, and being very committed to that, and forcing this whole concept behind community. So when I think about George Jackson, when I think about the folks that were involved in San Quentin, I just think about their commitment. A lot of them are making the same commitments that we're making today. The ultimate commitment. Just say that this is something that they're going to do for the remainder of their life, for the rest of their life. And I feel like just looking in you all's eyes that you may be committed in that way, and I hope you are, because this is something that's very important that we have to, take to the future generation to make sure Sekou can adapt to it and understand it, and then he can go forward with it until on forward until we bring about that type of change that we need.